Can you hear me? Good morning. Hi everyone, my name is Molly Dillon. I work on the White House Domestic Policy Council, and I'm so excited to see this very full room so early in the morning. So I know many of you have traveled from near and far, so we're really appreciative of you coming here to Washington to talk about this really important issue. I'm here to introduce my boss, who lets all of this work be possible and is just a huge champion for improving our nation's foster care system. So I want to welcome Roy Austin, who is the Deputy Assistant to the President for Urban Affairs, Justice, and Opportunity.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay, let's get some energy in this room. Come on, good morning, everyone. Let's go. All right, this is going to be a great day. This is going to be really an amazing day. And first of all, I need to just start off thanking Molly Dillon, because she has been leading the effort on foster care and foster youth here at the White House for more than a year now, and as we have really taken this to a new level from where we've been in the past, and that's thankful to the work that Molly has done here. So huge thanks to Molly for everything that she's done here. Look, we have some amazing champions of change in this room. I see a couple of them hanging out over here. Those are some absolutely amazing young people. We know that in the foster system, unfortunately, very few end up going on to higher education, and these are not only going on to higher education, but absolutely killing it there. And so I really appreciate having them in the room. Yesterday, I had the amazing experience of sitting down with a group of just phenomenal youth who just, laid it on the table and just said, these are the things that we need. And something that's so important about this is that we have to make sure that when we are talking about foster youth, that they have multiple seats at every table, because they're the ones who know what is being experienced, they're the ones who know what needs to be done, they're the ones who have the energy to drive the work that we're doing even further. So it was great sitting down with them last night, and really amazing to hear from them and hear the things that they really want to see us doing here. A huge thanks to Mark and Ju from HHS here, and I know usually you do these thank yous at the end, but I'm not sure I'm going to see all of you at the end, so I want to get these, make sure I make it clear who's making things happen here. Mark and Ju and what they're doing over at HHS on this issue is awesome. They're listening to you. They're making sure that we as an administration and as a government are doing the things that you need to make your work as easy and as successful as possible. And so Mark and June, I know you're going to hear from them later on today, but they're doing absolutely amazing work here. I also want to note that Ms. Shipp is here from Orrin Hatch's office. And I think in this world that we live in right now, where there is so little bipartisan work that is happening, the fact that this is an issue where we actually see some real bipartisan spirit, people get it. These are kids, and we have to do better by our kids. And it doesn't matter whether you're an R or a D, we're going to do better by our kids. And the leadership that you've shown is really something that we appreciate here in the White House. So thank you very much for that. So I really want to just get out of your way, but let me just do a little bit of talking about what we're seeing here and what's happening around here. So over the past year, some of the stuff that we have done, I think the single biggest thing is what has happened with the ACA, and the fact that that up until you're 26, foster youth can receive those benefits. That is really important, especially with the volume and the number of kids who are aging out of foster care. So I think that's an amazing piece of the ACA. We do have a little problem, and I know we have a lot of states here, and that problem is that these kids need to be able to move, to go to jobs, get their education, do whatever, and make sure that those benefits carry on with them. And there's a lot of stuff that we as a federal government should be doing and should be doing better, but a lot of you in the states are much more flexible, have a greater ability to make these things happen. So making sure that when young people leave, for example, we had a young lady here from Portland going to school in Wyoming, from Wyoming going to school in Portland, who could not take her benefits with her because Portland wouldn't take those on. We need to make sure that if she wants to do that to better herself, to get an education, that it's easy. This is as simple as having one child services calling another child service and say, hey, is she someone who's on your roster? Okay, let's move those benefits with her. It's really easy for the states to do it. We as a federal government need to do better about this, but I want to make sure that you understand that this is something we would love to see across the country, to make sure that youth can travel wherever they need to go and not feel limited by the fact that their benefits are stuck in one place. The other work that we're doing is we have brought together every single agency around the government to work on this issue. So, you bring together Interior to talk about Native youth, you bring together Labor to talk about how we can make sure that disconnected youth are able to find good jobs that are going to help them to be successful, bring together Education to make sure there's stability and that they're emphasizing stability when they're dealing with foster youth. We bring together Department of Justice because of the unfortunate intersection between juvenile justice and our foster youth, and making sure that we're doing our best for them as well. We bring together every agency to talk about what they can do better to improve the lives of foster youth. That is incredibly important and something that we're going to keep doing, whether it's May or it's June or it's July, to make sure that we're having this conversation and it's ongoing. We also need to do better with respect to LGBT parents. Okay, that's something which we as a federal government have to do better. Too many kids are stuck in congregate care or some other care because they can't find that forever family. Well, the forever family, it shouldn't matter whether that forever family is straight or gay, they should be able to go and find that family. And so we have to do a better job. But again, don't wait for us as the federal government to do this stuff. If your state is in a position to do this, make it happen. Make it happen, because it is too important we know the numbers, we know the statistics. If people have a loving family to go to, they are going to be more successful. So let's make sure that they have that loving family to go to. I also just want to note that, we're practicing what we're preaching here at the Domestic Policy Council, and that is, when we talk about the need to provide opportunities for former foster youth, we're going to do that. And so we have an amazing young woman here, Amani Myers, who was over on the Senate staff, working there for a term, and then we brought her over to our staff to work on everything that we work on. And we work on everything from criminal justice, civil rights, to human services, to labor, to housing, to My Brother's Keeper, to working with the Council on Women and Girls on girls and women of color. And Amani was there and an integral part of our team on all of that stuff. And so I encourage all of you to find amazing opportunities for these young people, because they're going to be lifelong advocates to make sure that we get this stuff right. So let me just say that I've met a ton of extraordinary people here. What our job is today and moving forward is to make sure that the extraordinary becomes the ordinary. That these kids every single day have the same opportunities as every other kid to have a normal life, but also to succeed. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, because all of you know that already, but anything we can do to make your voices louder is what we're here for. So with that, I thank you, have a wonderful time, and we really appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. So I want to give a big shout out to one of our partners. In addition to HHS, who helped put this all together, the Annie Casey Foundation was amazing in helping bring all of you here today, provide us with the food, which we're very grateful for. And then on top of those sorts of things, they're just a great partner in this work. They understand the importance of it and are always there by our side with policy recommendations and research, and we're so grateful for their partnership. So on that note, I want to introduce Patrick McCarthy, who is the president and CEO of the Annie Casey Foundation.
Thank you, Molly. I was thinking as I was preparing for this about a Sunday morning many years ago when I was comfortably just sitting down with my New York Times, and my 13-year-old son came bounding down the stairs, was incredibly excited, and he said, Dad, guess what? And you just love to see your son that excited. I said, well, what are you so excited about? He said, I found a car. I said, what do you mean you found a car? He says, well, do you know what eBay is? And I said, no, not really. This is a long time ago. He says, they sell cars. Well, what do you mean they sell cars, and what do you mean you found a car? It's great. It only has 120,000 miles. It's only $1,200. Now, it's in Boston, so we're going to have to drive up there to get it. Slow down there, son. What are you talking about here? So, sure enough, my 13-year-old son had gone on eBay and bid for a 15-year-old, 120,000-mile Corolla in Boston, and he was very excited. And at the end of that, he says, and I'll pay you the $1,200 back. I really will. So we had to sort of unsort all that, right? Now, a few years later, when he was 17, he had saved some money and decided he wanted to buy a car, and I went out with him. We looked at a bunch of cars. He chose one, would not have been the car that I chose, but he was 17, and it was almost all his money. I think 3/4 was his money, and the rest was a loan. He got that car, and it was a big mistake. However, he figured out that he was not going to be able to maintain that car, because it was an old car, unless he took a course at school in auto shop. So he took a course in auto shop. And in auto shop, all you have to do is buy the parts. Everything else, the guy coaches you through to do it. So he learned how to fix the car. He learned that he can make a big mistake and come back from it, and gained incredible confidence that he has carried forward with him. Why? Because he had the room to make that mistake. And in my view, the difference between my 13-year-old son, where the semi-reasonable and semi-prudent parent that I was trying to be did not actually harm him, but helped him get out of this bad deal, and he at 17, where this semi-reasonable and semi-prudent parent realized, time to step back. I would not buy this car. This is his decision. This is the car he wants, and he'll learn from it. And he did. Now, I had 4 teenagers at the same time. Twins were in there, so before you start making judgments. And there were many, many times when I wish I had a rule book. It would be so comforting if I just, here's the problem, turn to page 25, here's the solution. And of course, that would have been a terrible thing, because these 4 teenagers were each very, very different from each other. They had different preferences, different interests, different needs. They were at different developmental stages. And so my wife and I had to rely on our own judgment and our own knowledge of our individual children and how different they were from each other and what their needs were. We had to learn when to give space, when to give leeway, when to let them make a mistake, because they're going to learn from that and come back from that. This is what families do. This is what families are able to do, because families get to know children as individuals and understand their needs, understand their preferences, are able to provide that kind of nurturance and guidance and support through all the tough developmental milestones that all of us go through. In my view, the normalcy provision in the Strengthening Families Act is a huge step forward to recognizing that fundamental fact of human nature and human development. It encourages and allows foster parents to actually parent. It allows them to use their judgment and their knowledge of the individual children and youth in their care and the relationships with those children and youth to help guide them through those developmental milestones, to help give them the room to actually do what adolescents, for example, have to do if they're going to develop into successful adults. That is, take risks, make mistakes, and learn that they can make a mistake and come back from it. That's what builds in resilience. Resilience doesn't come because you never hit a bump. Resilience doesn't come because you never make a mistake. Resilience comes because you make a mistake and you figure out what you have to do next. You have to build that kind of neurological and social and emotional and behavioral muscle that's going to carry through all of adulthood. That role of guidance and support that a parent provides and a family provides to a young person doesn't end at 18. It doesn't end at 21. And that's why the Annie E. Casey Foundation and many of the folks in this room are really devoted to the simple, fundamental concept that every child needs a family, and that ought to be a family for life. Now, I am incredibly honored to have been asked to say a few words this morning, but I want to be clear that as this conversation goes forward today, it is actually not my voice that is either the most important or the one that you should be necessarily listening to. I can tell you that our 4 children, when they were teenagers and regrettably even to the present day, continue to give us lots of input into how we should interact with them. And in fact, it has been incredibly valuable feedback. They have helped put us back on track when we've wandered off track, when we've misunderstood their needs or thought our judgment was better than theirs, and yet they're old enough to make their own decisions. They are quite capable of informing us when we are off track. This is also true for every young person who is in this room and the young folks back in your states and in your cities that you should be listening to, we all need to be listening to as we figure out how to turn this philosophy of normalcy, this philosophy of parenting with a sense of individuality, how you turn that into actual practice in the very, very tough jobs that you all have as you run child welfare systems. The good news is that the young folks in the room today and the young people across the country who've been involved in advocating for themselves and for their siblings and for other youth in care have already proven to be incredibly successful advocates. In fact, I believe we owe so much to the young people who have been through the foster care experience and haven't just left it behind but said, I'm going to make it better for my siblings and for the other young people I know who are still in care. It's because of them that the normalcy provision is actually in this law. It's because of them that even before the ACA, many states started to provide medical coverage, provide tuition, make it possible and in fact necessary that they were able to stay in touch with their siblings. That was the voice of young people. So they've clearly proven themselves. If we do nothing else today, let's make sure we listen very carefully to all that they have to say, and let's make sure that we together, the young people, the folks who are responsible for running the systems, advocates, et cetera, we all work together so that the voices of these young people will actually change the future for literally thousands and thousands of foster children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. So next I want to welcome up Mark Greenberg, who's our Acting Assistant Secretary at the Administration for Children and Families over at HHS.
Good morning, and thanks everybody for joining us here today. I want to begin by thanking Roy and Molly, and as you could hear in both of their comments, the Domestic Policy Council has just played an extraordinarily important role across the administration in emphasizing the crucial importance of these issues. And so we play an important role at the Administration for Children and Families, but this really has been a full administration effort, and it's very much attributable to the energy and vision and determination that they brought to this. So thanks very much to Roy and to Molly and to all their colleagues. I also want to acknowledge, as Roy did, Ju Chang, the Associate Commissioner of the Children's Bureau, and her colleagues at the Children's Bureau for the spectacular work that they've done on today's issues and a whole set of related issues. And also want to join Roy in thanking Becky Shipp and her colleagues for the work that they've done, and both for Becky, both for what has been accomplished in federal law and for being a continuing voice for saying how fundamental it is to listen to young people and to have federal policy be guided by them. So thanks to all those people, and of course most fundamentally thanks to all of you for being here. We think this is a hugely important meeting. We are glad that it's bringing together state and local officials and young people and parents and researchers and representatives of the foundation community and others for having this conversation. We think, as we know that probably everyone here does, that it's crucial to be having the conversation about how we can ensure that young people in foster care are able to have the full range of experiences and opportunities that will help them prepare for and succeed in adulthood. We also know that far too often that's not the case right now for young people in foster care. We hear about times when a young person needs to get a court order to participate in a class field trip or to go to the zoo. We hear about the challenges that young people in foster care face when wanting to go to the prom or to play school sports or to get a summer job or to get a driver's license. Sometimes this happens because people are thoughtless, but lots of times it happens because foster care parents or workers, our systems are worried about safety. They live in fear that something bad will happen to the young people they're responsible for protecting, and so saying no often seems less risky than saying yes. So on the one hand, we recognize that it's crucial that the foster care system provide a safe environment for children and young people and young adults. But it's also crucial that young people be able to participate in the same activities as their peers, and this is fundamental to normal development and to a sense of community. So we've welcomed Congress's actions encouraging and directing states to do more, and the new legislation requiring implementation of the reasonable and prudent person standards. We hope that today's discussion is going to help states in moving forward in their planning. And we think it's crucial that the voices of young people be central to the planning and implementation of state efforts. Congress took another key step in relation to this in 2010 when it had enacted the legislation that let states qualify for federal reimbursement when extending foster care to age 21. Very few youth in or out of foster care are prepared to assume the full responsibilities of adulthood at 18. States can provide key supports for that transition by extending foster care to 21. 22 states have now elected this option. We encourage all states to do so. We also believe, though, that if extended foster care isn't provided in a developmentally appropriate way, young people won't use it as a resource. Few young people at 19 or 20 want to continue to live in a foster home or a group home. Like their peers, they want to live independently, in college dorms, with roommates, with other family members. At the age of 18, these independent living settings are allowed, and we know states are continuing to work on how to operationalize this in practice. The Federal Extended Foster Care Program supports young adults who are completing their education, going to college, entering the workplace. We think it's essential that states develop systems that provide key supports while helping young people achieve their goals. We also know that many girls and young women who've been in foster care are pregnant or parenting by the age of 19. For those young parents, services through extended foster care or the Chafee program are of crucial importance. So ACF is committed to working with states and helping to implement these key provisions. We think it's fundamental that young people be actively engaged in guiding state implementation, and look forward to the rest of today's meeting and helping that along. And then finally, I just want to acknowledge the work of the Annie E. Casey Foundation and the Jim Casey Youth Opportunities Initiative. Their work on these issues has been invaluable. We know without their generous support, many of you wouldn't be able to be here today. So again, thanks everybody. And I now turn over the conversation to Timothy Belseth, who is, among other things, a young adult consultant with the Capacity Building Center for States. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, Mark, for the introduction. I appreciate it. I'm going to stick to the script. I'm honored to be here at the White House to speak about an issue so important to me, both personally and professionally. In 5 weeks from now, I will celebrate and reflect over the past decade as it marks the 10-year point of when I first went into foster care in Texas. Over the past 10 years, I've lived and experienced a number of exceptionally diverse and influential events. I've gone through several major phases in life. I've endured the pains of poverty and the emotional burden of living with a drug-addicted and psychologically unstable parent. I've underwent the traumatic and bizarre nature of being placed in the foster care system. I've withstood the challenge of the system by not allowing it to destroy me, by standing firm on my desire to become a successful and independent adult once I aged out. Most importantly, I've experienced the benefits of hard work, determination, and diligence by achieving many things, such as graduating college, securing a professional job, getting married, and being empowered to drive changes towards improving child welfare. All of these experiences shape who I am today, guide the decisions I make tomorrow, and justify the actions of yesterday. I have spent the last year towards advocating for normalcy at various levels, and I argue that the need to provide, protect, and promote normalcy in foster care is necessary to ensure the overall well-being of youth, alter their trajectory, and improve their outcomes. With all the critical issues child welfare is tasked with solving, I argue that you do not need to methodically overhaul systems from top to bottom and inside and out in order to achieve better results. Rather, I believe that this can be better achieved by changing the way youth experience the foster care system. You cannot expect to see better results by simply changing administrative code or protocol alone. But instead, if you focus on improving the system by improving the experience, you will accomplish both. It will not be the same system because it will not have the same children currently in it. Speaking from experience, the most challenging and least pleasant phase of my life is when I first went into foster care. Although I was poor, often homeless, and lacking the proper care from a parent, I still managed to thrive despite these unfortunate circumstances. I consistently made it into the uppermost percentile in our standardized testing. I was taking and passing advanced courses in high school, and I participated in every extracurricular activity I possibly could. And so I was in band, football, powerlifting, chess, and in the university interscholastic league. I did these in part because I truly enjoyed them, but mainly because all my friends were doing it. I'll never forget the incredulity that washed over me the day I went into foster care and was told by child protection staff that I could no longer participate in any of these aforementioned activities. Imagine the shock. One moment you are counting down the days until summer ends and school begins, looking forward to another year with friends, sports, and band competitions, and the next moment you're hauled off by a strange person to a strange city to be locked away in a strange house. I was told that not being allowed to do these things was for my own good, and that there was too much liability with allowing me to participate in what I had already been doing without issue. My entire identity had been stripped from me, and I could not accept the justification on the grounds of doing what is in my best interest. I rejected that explanation back then, just as I reject it today. There are three major points I wish to expand on that should help inform your way of looking at normalcy through a different and more meaningful lens. First, what if we treat normalcy as a mental health issue? I had the privilege of serving on a mental health task force which aimed at advancing evidence-based, non-pharmacological methods to improve mental health of foster youth. We know that many young people in foster care are over-medicated with far too many prescription drugs, and we also know that we cannot medicate trauma away. I've made the argument that things that we would consider normalcy or normalization activities, if applied to people outside of foster care, would show to have a positive impact on mental health. And the research supports it. Our research shows the negative effects of social isolation. The repercussions of this are rife with mental illness, behavioral issues, and other worse life outcomes. On the other hand, positive socialization, such as having and seeing friends, is not only identified as promoting mental health by warding off certain illnesses, but also as identified by people as their primary option when working through a difficult emotional time without seeking professional help. Second, promote normalcy as a means to address the runaway problem. Let me briefly demonstrate what I mean by this. Mark Courtney, who will be presenting later today, conducted a study on foster youth with the intent of learning predictive factors of runaway behavior. He analyzed 10 years worth of data and found some interesting results. First, he found that nearly all people who did run away did so at ages 12 and older, so this is a teenage issue. This behavior isn't really found in younger children. Second, he found that the children that run away often run to their friends, not their parents. So ask yourself, are children running away from foster care or running to something that's currently prohibited within it? I also want to just make the point that when people are running away from the system, it's evident that they do not want to be in the system. And I know that goes without saying, and it sort of seems axiomatic. However, when you look at things like extended foster care, for many of us in the room, it might be one of those issues that why wouldn't somebody want to take advantage of this? I mean, free room and board from 18 to 21, it seems like a deal that's too hard to pass up. But when people are in the system and they do not wish to be in the system any longer because they've been not denied these activities and being denied this freedom, they want to leave. And so I think promoting normalcy would also lead to an increase in extended foster care and people using supervised independent living more, and valuing it more highly. The third and final point I wish to make is that the reason normalcy will provide or will improve youth's well-being and their outcomes is because it provides the necessary conditions for healthy human development. I've witnessed firsthand the benefits of normalcy, the consequences without it, and its restorative powers which have the propensity to heal a person and encourage growth. My stay in foster care was unpleasant precisely because I was routinely denied access to normalcy activities. Even though my service plan clearly stated that I could visit with friends, it went unenforced. As a result, I began to suffer. My school performance decreased as I began failing classes for the first time, and I viewed my caregivers with contempt for not treating me as a normal person, which understandably led to placement changes. As placements changed, I became increasingly restrictive. In my fourth placement, the only social interaction I received was in school. However, being that it was a high school where I did not know anyone, making friends was a challenge. I started to feel hopeless and lost until I realized that this was not how people were supposed to live. I had experienced life before foster care. Even if it was riddled with hardship, I knew that it was better than what I was currently going through. And so I ran away. Or rather, I ran to my friends. For the entire summer, from May to August, I lived as a free person, stayed away from drugs and crime, and told my caseworker that I would come back into foster care on the condition that I could be placed in my hometown so that I may once again be with my friends and finish high school with them. I wanted to enjoy what little childhood I had left. Once the school year drew close, I went back into foster care and was placed in my hometown. I was incredibly surprised my first week of being in the home, because when the first Friday came around, the other foster youth left to attend the high school football game. I asked the foster parent if she allowed people to go places. She looked at me and said, "Of course I do." At that moment, I knew that this would be the last foster home I was in. This foster parent operated as any normal parent would. She made it clear that if you wished to visit friends, participate in extracurricular activities, or hold a job, then you needed to do your chores, do well in school, and obey the rules of the house, such as being home by curfew. I am pleased to say that I absolutely thrived in these conditions, and it is a major reason I've been promoting normalcy so vigorously. I started working at a computer repair shop, continued playing terrible garage band music with my best friends, and made incredible progress in school. Although I was behind a semester because of my decision to run away, I wound up completing my coursework a semester early. I walked the stage with my friends, took advantage of the tuition and fee waiver and education training voucher, went out to college in my hometown, graduated summa cum laude with a political science and sociology double major. I began a career at the Texas Department of Family Protective Services, where I have been working for the past 3 years towards improving foster care by advocating and being a champion for foster youth. None of this would have been possible if normalcy didn't save me from the all too familiar destructive path that many youth cannot get out of. People I work with often tell me that I am the exception and that my outcomes, talents, and experiences are uncommon. I argue that it doesn't have to be this way. I truly believe that other people can turn out the way I did. The key to success is found in normalcy. If you create the conditions for an exceptional experience, then you will achieve exceptional results. Foster children are normal children, and I'll remind everyone in this room that foster care is merely a legal status. It is not a personality trait. The practice of disallowing normalcy activities based on the notion that these kids are unsuitable to be normal kids is selling them short, and in the process doing irreparable harm. I stand before you today as someone who truly benefited from normalcy, and as someone who will continue to advocate for it until it is fully and correctly implemented. Please work with me, as well as other young people like me, and use normalcy as a means to improve the system by changing the way youth experience it. Thank you.